Let's take a quick tour of the Custom Metadata Panel. And this is an extension that runs in Bridge as well as in Photoshop and Illustrator and Premiere Pro. Know that in Bridge, while it can work on multiple assets at the same time inside of Illustrator or Photoshop or Premiere Pro, it will only be focused on the asset that you have in focus. So let's take a look at the panel in Bridge and know that the interface will be the same as you move into those other applications. It's easy to find the Custom Metadata Panel from within one of those applications. Go to Find Extensions on Exchange, and then this will load up the extensions that are relevant to your application. In this case, it's filtering to Bridge, and you can see right here, Custom Metadata Panel. You can also search for custom metadata. Then you can click on it and then acquire it. I've already done that, so I'm not going to go through that process here. But once you have it acquired, you'll need to restart your application, and then it will be available from the extensions menu right here. So you can see custom metadata right there. And that's what we're looking at. So the Custom Metadata Panel provides a whole bunch of different form interfaces to help focus the attention of the user on, one, the metadata that you care about, and then two, helps to enter the data in the right format, or gives you one, it helps to focus on the metadata that's important to you, but it also gives you the ability to restrict the value so that you know that you're getting the right data into any particular property. The default is what we get when we first open the panel, so we're going to look at that quickly. And there are some things on here that I think are good illustrations. You can see right off the bat, we have a modification date shown, but this is a read-only field. So we do support read-only data, which folks can just see as opposed to interact with. We've got a description text, which is familiar, and you say, all right, that's great. Descriptive text, I can do that in the metadata panel now, right here. But if I'm using the metadata panel from Bridge, this can be really hard to find the thing you're looking for because it can show a lot of metadata properties, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And some of that can be really hard to read, or because you're expecting a constrained value, you don't have that when you're working in this panel. Also, this panel is not easy to extend. So if you have properties that live inside of a namespace that isn't supported by Bridge, it can be hard to get that data to show here. Custom metadata, on the other hand, is easy to do. So back to the forms. You can see, again, we've got a text field. We have, this is one where you can have multiple text fields in it. This one is what we call a structure, so image creator. And if I open this up, I can go down into the particular values, and this is coming from the plus standard. So this is something that they provide as a structure. They have a particular format that they use, and that's what this one is from. We have a few things also that come from IPTC. So in this case, it's rolled up inside of iptc.org. If you click on these hyperlinks in the separators, they will open to give you some more information about what the user has chosen, or what the designer of the form has chosen to put there. So you'll see that there. You'll see these clickable links from time to time. So scrolling down, we also have multiple text. That's what this one is. So you can see a lot of keywords in here. As we scroll down even further, here's a drop down. And this will show you an interesting property that we make available in drop downs. You'll see right here under breed, you have to pick the type of pet before you can see the breed. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So if I say that this is a dog, then the breed is now showing me dog breeds. If I change my selection in dog to, or on pet type to bird, now I'm looking at bird breeds. And so this is a really powerful way to have one metadata field inform another one. And this is configurable in the form designer, what we call the configurator. We also support language alternatives. You can see that here where it's showing EN. So English is the default language for this particular property in the form. And if you open this up, you'll see that there are some other values here. One is for Spanish, one is for Great British English, one is for US English. And of course, you can configure those languages as needed. So for your particular use case, you may know that you're always supporting Italian and Japanese and Korean. Great, you can put those in and expect that folks will be entering data there. This form field also supports if the asset has languages that are defined on it that are not included in the form, it will make them available. So we're not going to leave any metadata on the table. You'll be able to see all of that. We also support dates. So here's a date picker, and you can see it also has a time, but you do have the ability to control whether you can see the time and also what format is going to be shown here on the screen. You also have radio buttons. You see here's 3 choices, and these behave like radio buttons. This is a vertical presentation for radio. We've got switches that turn values on and off. This is a checkbox, and the checkbox, this is an indeterminate value, so there's nothing there yet, but if I click on it, okay, it's on, and now it's off, right? So you can do that. And you'll see here it says the coat type also requires a breed. So if you remember, we had to pick a breed, and because I can have kind of a cascading flow, I need to say that this is a parrot, and then I can go down and I can pick the coat type, which wouldn't be short hair. It would be, colorful feathers. Let's now go look at how we can configure these panels, and that's done with preferences. We have a tabbed interface, and that means that you can create tabs. You can see them here: default, demo, and empty tab. Those are 3 tabs that we had before. I had made them beforehand. And you can create a new tab by going into the tab management panel. You can add a tab and then give it a name and create a new one, or if someone shared a JSON file that had been exported from custom metadata, you can drop it onto here or click, and then you can go and load it up. We'll create a new one because it's good to show that we do have some examples in here, and these examples are pretty powerful. This is the default one, so when I said default, if you ever delete it, you can get it back by simply making a new one and pulling up the out-of-the-box example. But we also have a plus example. If you're working with Premiere, it shows how to do Premiere clips. IPTC has created a couple of default panels for us, or starting panels for us, and then also GLAM, the Open Museum folks, they've done that as well. So here's a whole bunch of these. Let's say we go and pick Dublin Core 1 just to have some stuff here. And so there you go. There's a whole bunch of properties that have been put in there. There's some separators, there's a divider, this is multi-text, a bunch of texts and dates and so on. There's a radio group. So there's a lot of stuff in here that you can use to be able to create this panel and make it work for you. Now, something else that you can do is to borrow panel components. So let's say I pull this whole IPTC core namespace section. We'll copy these. We'll keep going. We get all the way down to there. Okay, so we get everything. And then we'll copy those. So now I've got all of these things in the pasteboard. I can now go to another, I'll save this because I want to save it. You always have to save it. So we'll call it new tab. And then we'll go back and save that. So now it will get saved into my tabs. If I open up empty tab, there's nothing here, so I can edit it. There's a little edit button right there. And we open it up, and I can paste. So now I've borrowed all of those properties from the other panel, and I've now pasted them into here. So what we recommend is thinking about the kinds of properties that you want. There's a pretty good chance that we've got most of the common or well-known or well-used namespaces already available in the starter kit, so to speak. When I'm making a new one, you can pick from the examples. And then you can pick and borrow the properties that you want in your panel. We also support completely customized namespaces. So I'll hit save. And then let's go and add something completely new now. We're going to add a new text field. The display name will be pet name. And you can see we're doing some feedback where it tells you things have to be filled in or not. And I want to create a completely new namespace that doesn't exist. And this is coming from our example that we provide for you. So you have to give it a prefix, and you'll notice as I started to type, I'll backspace. It's starting to give me some options. These are namespaces that we know about, or prefixes that align with namespaces that we know about. And so we'll make those available to make it easier so you don't have to remember all of the the details. So this new namespace from out of nowhere, http://pet.adobe.com. So then you need to give it a property name. I already put in pet. Well, we'll see what happens when I put in the property name. This is going to be pet name. Oh yeah, I can't have that space in it. So pet underscore name. There we go. And then I don't understand what's going on here. I just have put a space and that seems to fix it. So great. Under advanced, we have some additional things like I can put in a custom tooltip that will show in the interface if you want to hover over it, as well as placeholder that you might put in there. I've got alternative language support. We talked about that, where I can start to type a value. So if I know that I want there to be Spanish, ES, you can see that it's now showing me, oh, there's Catalan, Spanish, there's Esperanto, interesting, Spanish there, which is highlighted. And then it says, what's the language, default language alternative? If I don't provide a language alternative specific value, it will not force me to pick one, but I can do that. So if I have multiple languages, we'll say GB, English GB, we'll pick, I don't know, whatever, I'm just picking something now. French, we'll pick French. Great, so I got 3. I could switch up which one is the default. Maybe we'll make French the default now. And then there's a bunch of other things you can do here. And over on the right, you'll see for every one of the field types, there's some specific instructions about things that you can do. You can make this field dependent upon there being a value in another field. That's what dependencies does. So I could pick one and say that this field will be disabled until I have a value in that other field. And then this one is about syncing. So if I had another field of text type on this form, I could, of language alternative, had to be language alternative because I turned that on. I could pick it, and then the two values would be the same when I started typing. So there's a lot of power in here. I'm going to hit cancel because I'm not going to save this. There's a lot of power in here. We'll just show you one more with a drop down, because in the drop down world, you can see that we can list all the drop down values. We've got the support for labels as well as values. So the human readable number, the human readable value, say general view, even though the value is 11,000, we're making sure that the human can see what they want, pick it from the drop down, and then it's going to apply the appropriate value that the asset management system is expecting. So there's a lot of power in here. There's a lot of field types that you can use. When you click add metadata, you can pick from checkboxes and dates and drop downs, as we said, numbers, switches, structures are interesting. So if you have a metadata field or metadata property that depends on being a structure, and that would have various properties embedded in it, then we do support that as well. URLs, you click on a URL or type in a URL and it will click and take you out to view it in the browser. And then hidden fields, and these are fields that don't show up in the interface, but they do appear when you go to sync. So this could be for a situation where you have multiple properties that need to have the same value, but you don't want to show all of them in the interface. You can create hidden fields to hold those synced properties, and then those things will write back to the asset when you save. So last thing we'll talk about here is saving. So you save your changes, it's all saved. You can export this to JSON, and you can save that, and then you can send it to somebody else who can use that in the panel, which is awesome. The other possibility is to use a network, and in that case, you could switch to network. You could type in a network path, so a URI, that would go to the JSON file located on a publicly accessible server. Maybe it's something on your intranet. Maybe it's something that is, say, in GitHub, wherever you want to put it. But that would make it possible then for everybody in the org to depend on the tabs being the same. And if the asset manager makes some updates because they change, or maybe they add a critical property, they can do that centrally. And then everybody, when they start the panel, they'll get that update here. So there you go. We're very excited about this particular launch, the 2.0.2, and we hope that you will enjoy the panel. And please provide us some feedback. You can do that right here in the flyout menu, which is right there, and you'll see feature request and survey. Please go ahead. Feature request opens up our GitHub where you can create an issue. And then survey, we have a survey where we're asking some more information, and we do appreciate your feedback. So thanks very much, and have a great time with metadata.